Hey again everyone, and welcome back to the channel for another installment of our new figure showcase series, where I take a quick look at a figure I'm adding into the collection, and more often than not it will be a newer figure release. So for today's installment, I'm actually pretty excited to take a look at the DID Core 6 scale version of Lieutenant John Dunbar from the award-winning film Dances with Wolves. So DID Core Figure Company has been around for a while at this point. And while their expertise has always been military, they've started doing some intriguing things where they're leaning into that specialty, but at the same time giving us some movie-related figures. So I've always known about them, but I started jumping into the fray for their Top Gun Maverick F-18 pilot, and then they released the Colonel Hal Moore from We Were Soldiers, based on Mel Gibson's portrayal. So it's a nice jump into another historic era for this figure, giving us what I think is an iconic Kevin Costner role. As an aside, there is also a horse that's been released to accompany this figure. Mine is on its way, but I just wasn't patient enough, so I figured I'd look at the figure now. But if you watch the movie again, you know Cisco is a great companion to John Dunbar. So if you haven't watched the movie, it basically centers around Kevin Costner's character, who's a Union officer during the Civil War, and following an opening scene where he tries to kill himself by riding past Confederate soldiers, his superiors actually see his actions as heroic, and he selects his next posting, choosing to be assigned to a frontier outpost. And through a series of events, he ends up befriending a Sioux tribe. So, look, not going to go much more into that. If you haven't watched it, it's a great movie. So I was really surprised when this got announced, and I just had to get it. So looking at what we're getting here from DID, it's a lot. Modern military has a lot of components for the soldiers' kits, so much that it can almost be a little overwhelming. This guy has a lot of uniform components, but it's not as complicated to assemble. The other surprising thing, and we'll get into this once we look more closely at the accessories, but almost every weapon is actual metal. But look, you're getting some extra hands, you get some weapons, some pouches for his belt, which are pretty cool, and then the key really is that you're getting a variety of looks for him, including a more ceremonial belt to go over the red sash. You get the vest, jacket, and the heavy jacket, so a lot of looks, which is pretty cool. And no pleather here, which is a plus, and a minus at times. But I love that DID pays this degree of attention to everything they do. Alright, so let's start by getting into the accessories, and we'll go over the hands first. So the figure comes set up with the bendy, flexible hands. That's standard DID practice, and you get them because you can use those with the gloves. Look, I'm not a huge fan of those, but I get the point for why they're included. But you do also get a few pre-molded hands in the different gripping poses for the weapons. They are a little bit loose, so you have to make sure the accessories are well placed, but they work. Now, are these the best hands? No. You can clearly see the mold lines, but that's me really nitpicking and looking really closely at these. Otherwise, they're pretty serviceable. So let's get into the first weapon, which is his revolver. So I did group things together just because otherwise this becomes a really long video. But it's all the accessories that belong with the revolver. So let's start with the gun. It's die cast, beautifully done with an actual rotating cylinder, and the handle is real wood. Hammer does cock back, so it's great, and even the trigger guard has some nice gold highlights to them, so it really is a stunning piece. And then you get these small baggies that include actual metal bullets, so that's another cool aspect. And then you get a genuine leather holster, as well as a bullet pack that has little pockets for you to actually store the bullets. Again, it's a little detail that I'm probably never going to look at again, but it's there, so that's incredible. And then to make things even better, you can actually place the bullets in the cylinder. It's a little annoying to get them in place, but it's just another awesome detail that shows the skill that goes into these. Next up, you get the rifle, which is also made of real metal and wood material. It's another beautiful piece with the actual wood stock, the metal body as well, and it's also functional to a degree with the ability to raise the sights like John does during the buffalo hunt scene in the movie. And then it has the bottom of the gun, which moves down for cycling the rounds. So it's beautiful. And the barrel has some nice weathering in the silver portions, while the body of the gun has that nice gold. So really phenomenal work for a piece that is pretty iconic in the movie, and I think for the era as well. Next up, you get his sword. So look, he only wears this in his full ceremonial dress uniform when he's traveling to visit the Sioux tribe to try to make a great impression. So we get the sword here as well, and again, just amazing what DID was able to do. First of all, the entire thing is metal. The sword sheath is a nice metal piece with actual metal rings to connect to his belt. And the sword itself, the blade is a nice metal, and the handle also metal with the gold ornate handguard. That's just done and replicated in a stunning fashion. So again, it just really looks great, and it's well done. And in terms of final accessories, you do get a few memorable ones from the movie. First is a very small patch that connects to his belt, also real leather, so nothing crazy there, but amazing with the real metal pin at the bottom holding it closed. And then you get his journal that you can open. Real leather again, and there are real pages inside, although they're blank, so they didn't include the pictures that he draws in the movie. But it's great to have, especially since it means a lot to the story. And then finally at the top you get the scope that he uses during the buffalo hunt that impresses his friend from the tribe. This one is actually just plastic, but it still looks decent and does include a leather-like wrap at the front. So it's a nice piece, and again shows just great attention to detail. Now next you get two belts. The top one is the more standard one that's real leather, so you're seeing the theme here, right? That everything is a great material selection, and it includes a real metal buckle that has this ornate detailing on it with a nice gold and silver eagle, and it does include the shoulder strap, although you have to detach that and connect it to the belt at the bottom to create the more accurate screen look. Now the belt at the bottom is fabric, and it includes those nice gold stripes along the length interspersed with the nice black lines. So this is the ceremonial belt that also includes the straps with metal clips to hold the sword in place. So awesome overall. Next, when it comes to clothing pieces, is actually my least favorite of the bunch, which is unfortunate, right? But that's the hat. Look, the biggest issue I have is the size, and maybe more importantly, it's the material selection, since it's a hard plastic. It does look a little bit like the one in the movie, but since it's pre-sculpted and pre-molded, it just looks a little bizarre. Now, it does have the cavalry decal, and then you do have the ropes around the brim, so there is a lot of nice detail in here. I just wish they had used a different material that maybe looked a little bit more natural, because right now, I'm less inclined to use it. But then we do have the final clothing pieces, which let you create all those alternate looks. So the figure is deceivingly simple, but there's a lot here. So you get the giant winter overcoat that has some wired elements to it, although you're not going to see this on the figure. I tried, and you actually have to use real buttons here. It's insane. I gave up after about 40 minutes of trying to get the buttons placed. DID even showcases a video of how to put this together, and they use a special tool they have, so I'd have to get that one. But the other jackets and the other pieces are more easily used, and that's the best, right, with the great detail on the buttons, on the vest and the jacket. You also get suspenders, which also annoying to get onto the figure, and then you get the red sash and his gloves, so everything looks great. Now let's get into the figure itself, and we're going to start with the sculpt. So look, while we all know who this is supposed to be, the sculpts are where DID does suffer a little. And frankly, I wonder if they're not purposely avoiding 100% accuracy. But for this one, I can see the likeness to Kevin Costner a little bit. I do think the hair is a little flat, but that's so you can fit the hat over the top. While in the movie, for the most part, his hair is a little bit more kind of puffed out. But I think you can see the likeness here. Detail-wise, it's pretty decent too, with some nice wrinkles and some great detail work on the facial hair and the eyebrows. The eyes do have a bit of that doll-like quality to them, so it's not exactly the most realistic-looking pair of eyes we see from other companies. But even from a profile view, it's not bad. So not the best sculpt we've seen, especially in this day and age where Hot Toys just kills it, and you have other companies like InArt, but it's also not bad. Now with the hat on, I will tell you this, in hand, I was expecting to hate it a little bit more, but it doesn't look as horrible. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but it does look better in hand. But even looking at the pictures or at the videos that I took, it doesn't photograph well, and it does look strange. I almost think the top of the hat is maybe a little bit too high, and maybe that's a function of the plastic sculpt. The brim looks good, but the rest of the hat just, there's something off, to be honest. And again, from certain angles it looks better, but from head on, I'm not sure I'm crazy about it. Now the figure itself is on a very slim body that I think works for John Dunbar, and it's a deceptively simple uniform, but the jacket looks stunning with the detail and all the gold buttons along the front, and then the shoulder insignia, they're actual metal pieces that get taped down onto the jacket pretty solidly, I would say, and they look great. You also have some button details on the sleeves, and the pants have some yellow striping down the leg. Boots also look great with the spurs connected, and all of this is real leather. Only issue, similar to some of their other releases, while I love the leather on the boots, the ankle pivots are a little hindered, so getting him to stand requires some work. But look, there's so many thoughts when you get this figure in hand. First of all, did any of us ever think we would get a Kevin Costner figure from Dances with Wolves? I mean, seriously, That's why I love companies like DID that are jumping into some of these offshoot characters. Also, you have to love the number of display options with all the different styles of uniform, including just having him in that white shirt with the suspenders. And look, if you're a fan of the movie, there are a lot of different scenes you could replicate and looks. But if you're just a military fan as well, tons of options. The one thing that's missing though, and it's coming soon again, like I said at the beginning, is the horse. If you've watched Dances with Wolves, you realize how important Cisco is to the story. From the moment that he races across the front and has Confederate soldiers trying to shoot him. And look, it's a simple look as well with the jacket open and arms outstretched that I might try to replicate. Although the horse is just in a standing position, so he's not in the running pose that you'd need. But in my mind, I'm thinking about other scenes like the buffalo hunt when he shoots the rifle to stop the buffalo from charging someone. Or of course you can have him in the full ceremonial garb with the US flag that he has when he goes to visit the tribe for the first time. So while I do feel like the figure looks great by itself, I do have a vision for how it's going to look as a full set. I think it's just going to really pop, especially with all the details that are already evident here. So look, even if you don't have the horse, if you want a Civil War figure, this isn't a bad option. Tailoring on the clothes are great, detail on everything just outstanding. So it's a figure that can be a little unique, but I think turned out great. So that was a quick look at Lieutenant John Dunbar from Dances with Wolves by DID Corp. A really great figure in my opinion. But let me know your thoughts, and as always, thanks for watching, and if you're enjoying the content, please consider dropping a like, comment, or subscribing, and we'll touch base on the next video.